Hello, I am back here with another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing Barbie's new Autistic Fashionista doll. Hugo, get out of the camera. For anyone who doesn't know, my name is Lizzie. I'm autistic, and dolls are my biggest special interest and have been for a very long time. So I am so happy that this doll exists, and I wanted to share some thoughts on her. Some glowing, some a bit more critical. Please get out of the way, don't step on my computer. So I'm just going to dive in. One thing I'm very glad about is that Mattel chose to work with the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, which is, as in the name, is run by autistic people, as opposed to an organization like Autism Speaks, which is mostly directed at and directed by family members of autistic people. Not because family members can't have valuable opinions and things to learn from, but when it comes to representing autistic people, I think autistic people ourselves are the ones who should be most involved. Doesn't make them a perfect organization, but I think it's a lot better than Autism Speaks. They treat autistic people with a lot more dignity and respect. I've got my notes here on my Chromebook. So yeah, I also really love that they made her a girl of color. That's so important because women of color are the least likely people to actually get a timely autism diagnosis unless they have high support needs. And even then, it's not necessarily guaranteed, especially just in different parts of the world, there's different diagnostic processes. I love her accessories that she comes with, her little fidget spinner, her communication tablet, and her ear defenders. That's my favorite, because that's something I use a lot, is ear defenders. I think that these accessories do a great job of making what is considered by a lot of people to be an invisible disability into something that is visible. My favorite little details for this, though, are that her arms and wrists are jointed so she can stim, and also that her eyes are slightly averted so she isn't making eye contact. Some people could call those things stereotypical, but I think they're very positive, because while that doesn't represent every autistic person, that does affect a lot of people. A lot of autistic people stim with our hands and wrists. I definitely do. Have trouble with eye contact. So even though it doesn't represent every person who is autistic, it still is something that makes an invisible disability visible in a doll. I think these are tiny details that show a lot of care that were put into making her. So yeah, I've heard of some autistic people being not happy with her because they think she's too stereotypical. But I think that is very misguided, because what they mean when they say stereotypical is just that she's visible. She is a visibly disabled doll representing autistic people, and I think a lot of, unfortunately, more privileged autistic people in autism communities can sometimes, not intentionally, but still throw other autistic people under the bus, specifically non-speaking and high support needs autistic people under the bus, so that they can say, well, look, I'm not like them. They say, I'm neurodivergent, I'm not disabled. You know, I unfortunately feel like there sometimes is a line between those two things that's enforced in communities. And I feel like a lot of the time those people try to erase disability from autism narratives, which is very harmful for a lot of us, especially non-speaking and high support needs autistic people who use AAC, autistic people whose disability is visible from either stims or assistive things like ear defenders, or just our behaviors being unnatural to some people, even though they're natural to us. But yeah, this autistic Barbie, she doesn't represent every autistic person because she's one doll. Barbie has made a variety of Barbies, fashionistas who use wheelchairs. They still don't represent every wheelchair user. There's 2 Barbies with Down syndrome. They don't represent every person with Down syndrome, and we can't expect them to. Disability is a very broad spectrum. There's all sorts of ways to be disabled, and we can't expect every disability narrative or representation to represent every autistic person or every disabled person in exactly the way we experience our disability. So I think the fact that for this first autistic Barbie, they made her a visibly disabled person of color who uses AAC, I think that is a huge deal. I think it's a wonderful sign of progress. It makes me sad that some autistic people are pushing back against that. So, my Barbie, I have named her Amna. Her name was suggested by my friend Mars. And she is in my doll universe, she's a 21-year-old Pakistani-American, non-speaking, high-support needs autistic young woman. But then, I have another autistic Barbie here, because the great thing about dolls is any doll can be autistic. This is a Barbie I got on the same day. I found her at a thrift store. And her name is Estelle, and she is also autistic, but she has low support needs and works. And she is actually Amna's occupational therapist. Please get off the computer. Because, yeah, that is the joy of dolls. Any doll can be autistic. Any doll can represent whatever we want them to, honestly. Dolls exist for storytelling, in my opinion. And that is what we do with our... we make our stories. They are who they are. And you can represent anything. And especially like when you look at Barbie, their slogan was, "You can be anything." So, you can be anything. Amna, you can be autistic. And Estelle, you can be autistic. I actually already had, before this Barbie came out, a different Barbie that I had as a non-speaking autistic young woman who uses AAC. I didn't have a tablet for her, though. Her name is Alondra, and she's in my camper right now, so I don't have her with me. But to see an actual Barbie designed to be autistic and use a communication tablet and wear ear defenders and stuff, that's just amazing. To review the actual material quality of this Barbie, unfortunately, she could definitely use better quality control. You can see her hair is really uneven. As usual, the fashionista dresses are terrible. So it's not a good material. It's not well made. And also, something I noticed is, so Estelle is a few years older. Amna's plastic on her legs and arms has a different feeling. It's more like matte, which is interesting. I don't like it, but I've got bigger problems in the world. I think her accessories are nice. I really love that the fidget spinner actually spins. It isn't right now because I have it rubber banded to her hand so I don't lose it. I think that her tablet stays in her hand pretty well, and I love her ear defenders. However, I am leaving them also rubber banded to her head because they are a little loose and I know they would fall off very quickly and get lost, and I don't want that for her. So yeah, I am overall very happy with my Autistic Barbie. I'm so happy that this doll exists. And to bring it on to another note, I feel like there are a lot of very difficult things happening in the United States right now. And some of those relate to autism and autistic people. And even though it may seem small to some, having an officially autistic doll from one of the biggest doll lines and brands in the world is so important. Not just for representation, but also not just for representation for autistic children is what I mean, but also for representation for other people to look at and remember that we are human, that we are in community with them, and that even though we are maybe different from them, we are still valuable. And that value doesn't depend on what our abilities are. It doesn't depend on what our diagnosis is. All autistic people are valuable, whether they are a low support needs autistic person who can speak and hold a job and live alone, to autistic people who need 24/7 care. We are all valuable and deserve to be visible. And as the United States government continues to I can't find the right word, promote ideas that are harmful, I think having a doll like this, even if it's a small step, even if it doesn't change what the government does, it still is a step in the right direction, and I appreciate it very much. So thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts on Autistic Barbie or questions about anything that I've said in the video, feel free to comment, and I will do my best to answer. Thank you. Bye.